Hello, Shakespeare student. I am here to help you put together your ideas for your Hamlet thematic project. This year it is a creative artifact that you will make that is going to teach us something about Hamlet, specifically the theme, because you guys have a project coming up, very exciting. It's due May 4th of 2020. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out Classroom because I've posted all the information that you're going to need. So the rundown is like this. You're getting Act 5, Scene 2 given to you in an abridged format. And I would really encourage you to try to make some of your project focus on the end of the play, because that's where we learn the lesson from our protagonist, right? And our antagonists and everybody else's minor conflicts that go back to Hamlet's greater conflicts. Those are all lessons that we should be learning. Those probably refer back to those 11 questions, which you will find in a slideshow in Google Classroom. You may not have finished reading the story, and that's okay. And you may not have clicked on any of the links in any of the slideshows. And that's okay, but I will encourage you to now go back through Act 1 slideshow that has Act 2 connected to it, the Act 3 slideshow, the Act 4 documents that are posted in Classroom, and the Act 5 script that is abridged for Act 5 Scene 2. I would take all of those things and click on all those links and learn everything you can about this play that you have been asked to take a look at. Once you have amassed your resources and looked at what is available to you, ideas that you can draw from, information about the play that might be important for your project, since your project is designed to teach us the theme that you see of Hamlet. Once you've gotten all your materials together, you need to start planning, because prior planning prevents poor performance. I've heard that a lot in my life, and so yeah, you got to plan. If you're going to have a good project, you've got to have a plan for it. The first step to any good project is brainstorming. You need to think about what your options are as far as what the guidelines have laid out, and also what resources or materials are available to you. Step 1, go back through Hamlet, check it out, every drop of it. It's all been linked into Classroom for you in the newest document, which is the Hamlet Creative Project Guidelines. Characters, conflict, setting. Those go together to make premise. You learned that in class this year. Remember that the protagonist is supposed to represent you, and he dies. First of all, that's called the tragic protagonist. Second of all, if you're supposed to learn whatever lessons are taught to the protagonist, no matter how severely, that's a lesson that you're supposed to take away from the play. So whatever you think the theme of Hamlet is, whatever you think the big so what is, whatever you think the answer to the question, what did you take away from this poem, or this play, or this story, or this song, that's always going to be theme, and theme's always going to be taught to you by your main character. There's other ways to derive theme, there's lots of different sub-themes, but if you're going for something big, look at Hamlet. What's his problem? Think about all the conflicts that are affecting all of the characters in your play. Everybody's got something going on. Usually it's a negative thing, like an actual conflict. Sometimes it's a positive thing, like an opportunity. Hamlet wants to go to college, right? Hamlet's biggest source of conflict is his family. Theme. What do we learn from that? But then the setting. How does the setting of Elsinore affect all of these characters, and how do all of those characters then turn back around and affect Hamlet and the conflicts that are facing him? Because he's your protagonist, so he's the one who's supposed to represent you, dear reader. And let's think about that setting for a second. Elsinore. Seems like everybody who shows up there gets a little wonky, and, well, not everybody survives. It's kind of a meat grinder, yeah? Elsinore's not a good place to be. How does that impact your characters? How do those characters then influence Hamlet's motivations, decisions, desires, and ultimately his actions? Another thought on setting. Elsinore is not only a meat grinder. Elsinore is not only an asylum. How many scenes take place at daybreak? How many scenes take place in the middle of the night? Every scene in Hamlet takes place in or around the property of Castle Elsinore, except for one. Act 4, Scene 4 is the only scene that takes place away from Castle Elsinore, and it's still in Denmark. Hamlet's waiting to get on that boat, and he runs into Fortinbras with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern at his sides. But then he gives us a soliloquy, right? My thoughts shall be bloody, or they shall be nothing worth. And after that, do you see Hamlet get on the boat? The scene just says, exit. Doesn't say where anybody goes, doesn't show Hamlet getting on the boat. Then Act 4, Scene 6, Hamlet sends a letter to Horatio. I never did get to ask you in class because, you know, distance learning. How do I get mail from a boat if it's not the people on the boat bringing it to me? Maybe Hamlet never left for England. Maybe there were never pirates. Look back at Act 4, Scene 6 if you don't know what I'm talking about. It is entirely possible that Hamlet never left Denmark, Hamlet never went to England, Hamlet never met pirates, and those sailors who bring the letters to Horatio and the king in Act 4, Scene 6, just be anybody. We don't know that they're sailors. Think about what you know about how much Horatio would defend Hamlet and protect him. Maybe Horatio knew what was going on the whole time. Maybe Horatio is just a dupe and Hamlet used him. If you look into the work for Act 3, you will see that there is a whole list of people who use people to get what they want. This play is about using folks, right? Ladies, we've only got Gertrude and Ophelia here for female characters, and neither one of them are really upstanding individuals, but that's all open to interpretation. You know that Mr. Bertram thinks that Gertrude was in on the thing. You don't have to. You could convince me of something else, and that would be a very good thematic project.
We could also learn about the importance of friendship and brotherhood. Look at Hamlet and Horatio. We could also look at sibling relationships. Think about Ophelia and Laertes. He's trying to guide her down the right road, but then Dad gets in and gets all negative with it. Before we know it, Dad's gone, Hamlet's gone, Laertes is back, Hamlet's back, she's in a hole. Hey, did anybody ever put two and two together and think, the fact that we are exhuming the jester, Yorick, from his grave, only to place Ophelia in that grave, we're replacing a fool with a character who says what? I don't know, my lord. I know not what to think, my lord, but truly I do fear it. We've replaced a fool. The fool. We know a lot about what happens in this story. There's also things we only hear about and don't see. Think about when Hamlet shows up outside of Ophelia's apartment, freaks her out. They're in Act 2, Scene 1. She reports about this. We don't actually see it. Also, Gertrude, what role did she have in the death of old dead Hamlet? Any? It seems unlikely that she just didn't know that he was gone.
The first time we see the ghost of old King Hamlet is in Act 1, Scene 1. Horatio and the guards see him. That's where we get these foreshadowing lines that something is rotten in the state of Denmark and that this bodes some strange eruption to our state. That's two important lines right there in one scene. Then we see the ghost in Act 1, Scene 4, but we don't hear from him. Act 1, Scene 5, he tells us, the ghost does, about his murder in the garden, right? But the question is that actually the ghost of old King Hamlet? Or is that a devil sent to trick Hamlet? Because what does the devil collect? Souls. And by the end of the play, the devil's got a lot of souls going on, if that's how this all went down. However, that could just be the ghost of old King Hamlet, which would make sense why he shows up in Act 3, Scene 4. Tells Hamlet, leave your mother alone. I'm here to whet your almost blunted purpose. In other words, I'm here to sharpen you up, son.
And speaking of marrying somebody else, how about old dead Hamlet? Why was he ever in hell in the first place? Or maybe you've already decided in a previous assignment that never was the ghost of old dead Hamlet, and it was actually a devil sent to damn him.
The moral of that story that the player king shares with us about Pyrrhus and Priam is about how you should not hesitate, or else you might miss your moment. Hamlet then hesitates almost immediately afterward and doesn't kill his uncle Claudius when given the opportunity. Why does the ghost not show back up in Act 5, Scene 2? Why does the ghost not wave Hamlet's soul into heaven? The fact that the ghost never shows up is a big indicator to Mr. Bertram, but not everybody, just me, some others. We'd maybe tell you that that wasn't the ghost of old King Hamlet, and this whole thing is just a trick sent into play by the devil. You also know I'm a fan of the theory that Ophelia did not kill herself, nor did she fall out of that tree by accident, because who climbs a willow tree, right? Who falls in a creek and doesn't stand up? Who watches somebody drown and doesn't do anything to help them out of the drink? I don't know, man, but that's what Gertrude did, didn't she? And then there was no ghost in Act 5, Scene 2. Who's benefiting? Is it Fortinbras? He and Horatio are the only two standing at the end. If this was all just a clever ruse put together by Queen Gertrude, then yeah, I'd say that she's done a terrible thing to all of Elsinore.
Maybe think about the parallelism of an adult son of a murdered father who seeks revenge against that killer, and how by the end of the play, that's actually Laertes, after Hamlet, who's after Claudius. Yeah, problems beget problems. Revenge only creates more chaos.
we know about the archetype of dead fathers and the sons who seek revenge for them, what kind of themes and lessons could we learn from that? These are themes you're more than welcome to use. There was also those 11 essential questions or statements that we used at the beginning of our play to try and figure out how do we already feel about the situations we're going to encounter in Hamlet. There are so many more themes available in Hamlet. These are just some that are coming off the top of my head, and I'm making a video with them. If you would like to talk more about this, I'll need to see you in a WebEx room 10 to noon, Monday through Friday, anytime. And if you can't make that time, I'd be more than happy to schedule a special time with you so that we could arrange to meet within your schedule, because I'm here working for you still. Whatever climactic act solves the conflict that faces each character, most notably your protagonist Hamlet, that conflict will teach you a lesson. Don't trust your family. That's a very negative and grim lesson, but that is one that we could take away from Hamlet. These are themes you're more than welcome to use. There was also those 11 essential questions or statements that we used at the beginning of our play to try and figure out how do we already feel about the situations we're going to encounter in Hamlet, and then when we add details and context clues to those problems and situations, how do they change? What do they mean for our characters as they overcome or succumb to their different conflicts?